Given as the extensive amount of interaction that's going to be required between the organization and the audit committee and the auditors, especially on CAM issues, hopefully this will be resolved.
May like to highlight as well what the SSCP position is as far as the new stand, because they are also required to issue some notification on that.
Okay, that's interesting. Just let me respond to this. Sometime back, SSCP wrote to the Institute to have an early adoption of this standard, minus early adoption, minus the CAM. We discussed and concluded that I think there is a significant change, and this requires people to get aware. So we started these awareness sessions. 3 sessions we have already done. This is the 4th one, and this is an exclusive event for the listed companies. We invited people from only listed companies. As far as the regulator is concerned, based on my interaction, I don't see any kind of a resistance at this point of time on this. Sorry. Okay, the report that we issue on the condensed interim financial statement is not an audit report. That is a review report. At the moment, the review report standard is not changed. This what we are discussing is only with respect to the audit, which is an annual feature. Ji Ali. Ali.
Thank you all for a great presentation. More fundamental question around the category realities.
Okay.
There was a lot of mention about the word, repeated mention of the word significant. So is materiality a subset of significant, or is something which is material risk will be possible? That's my first question.
Okay. You want me to respond to this, and then you can go ahead. Okay, I will go a little technical here. Okay. As Arsalan has explained that any key audit matter to be reported, this has got to be first communicated to those charged with governance. And those charged with governance means the board or the audit committee, right? So it is not that all matters that have been reported or communicated to those charged with governance, those are the key audit matters. You have to take out from there, because of course only the significant matter gets communicated to the board or the audit committee or discussed with the audit committee. But out of those, the most significant, so I am adding the word, the most significant, most significant. And with that, materiality is not the only, the material can not only be with respect to a quantitative amount, it can be a qualitative factor as well. So to answer your question, it is yes, to some extent this is linked to the materiality, and naturally you only discuss with audit committee that is material, but out of those matters which have the most significant, in the professional judgment of the auditor, that is the key audit matter, right?
My second question is around disagreements. As Firoz said, this is going to cause a little bit of a hard turn for people when it's publicly mentioned in the audit report. So how are you going to deal with disagreements? Is there provisions to provide management comments or extension comments?
Okay. At the end of the day, it is going to be the auditor's report, right? And so the final call auditor has to take. If he does not report a key audit matter which merits key audit matter, and this is going to be coming out of its own files. So subsequently, if it finds out that there was, you spend most of your time in extensive documentation is there for a particular matter, and that is not either, it's not appearing as key audit matter, certainly that will raise some question. But I agree that there will be matters where there will be disagreements, and through interpersonal, discussion, I would expect that these issues should be narrowed down. But yes, somewhere there will be, some heartburn.
Let me just add on that, because obviously when we discuss the management letter at the board, even there are quite disagreements. Some board members feel that the matter raised is not material enough, and why should it be addressed to the board? It can easily be addressed to the management. Now there, obviously, the issue is very simple. You call up the auditor, and they probably, to a large extent, would agree that this is not meant for the board, this is only meant for the management. But here, timing is going to be very critical, because as I said, you really can't do that on the same day. The auditors would have finalized their CAM after much discussions. And it won't be just the reporting partner who would just pick up few points and say, this is going to be the part of my audit report. Especially in the first few years, they too would have to go through a very extensive discussion process within their own firm before they actually finalize. So it's very unlikely that if differences arise at the board meeting, that you can simply call up the auditor or the reporting partner and say, can we exclude item number 3 or 4? That is not going to happen. So again, as I mentioned, the companies will have to plan their audit committee meeting, board meeting, taking into account that these matters can cause problem, and they will have to be resolved if there is a disagreement.
Just add two things on this. A, if you look at the key audit matter requirement, the first part, the auditor itself is required to justify why he thinks a matter is a key audit matter. So the requirement itself, that you need to start with justifying yourself first, why you believe it's a key audit matter. Number 2, it is not an information the auditor is providing. It always is referred to a disclosure which management is providing first in the auditor's report. So it's coming out of the management first in the financial statement, and the auditor is referring to the disclosure and saying only that we believe that it's a significant audit matter by justifying why he believes so. So there is a check within the standard, if you like, that you need to justify yourself. You cannot just, you categorize all matters as key audit matter, but please explain and justify as to why you believe it's a key audit matter.
My name is,
Please.
Kamran sir, just a minute. Are you done?
So inevitably, even if management agree that yes, it is a key audit matter, they might want their perspective to be shared. Remember, we're talking about a very different.
Yes. Yes. So that is the disclosure. So that's why we are saying that before its standards are implemented, the management should review what could be the potential key audit matters and beef up the disclosures about those matters from now onwards, so that when these matters are reported, this is not a news to the shareholders through the auditors. It is a news which is already given from the management, and that's why those have to be considered in line with your other material dissemination of information and auditor's report. You have to actually consider the potential key audit matters now and consider what you have been reporting currently.
Ali, I understood your question. I think there could be such situations where, of course, when auditor has highlighted certain matter, and the management probably would like to have certain wordings or some kind of more detail. So one way is like the financial statement disclosure, right? Here I would say that the standard has not specifically mandated or restricted that if it is not in the financial statement, it cannot be a key audit matter. So no, liberty for the auditor is there. But I think for that, what you are coming towards is there has to be a document, a forum through which the management should also be able to say something about those matters, so that it brings clarity to all. So I think for that, it is the right place is the report of the directors. And in the report of the directors, either through the code of corporate governance changes, or SSCP can come up with any specific comment that mandate the company to put that in the director's report. I have had this discussion with SSCP. As part of our next stage, we will be inviting the regulators to ICAP, both State Bank of Pakistan as well as SSCP. I have had this discussion with SSCP, and in the month of April, most likely we will be having that session. And of course, we'll be sharing, the comment that we have here. And certainly this very matter to have some place in the director's report for the management to have this opportunity to give is something that we can take. So we note that. Just a minute. Ji Kamran.
My name is Kamran Mohammed.
Ji Kamran.
I'm CFO Pakistan Petroleum.
Yeah.
I've got some comments, some questions, and also some word of caution. First of all, this audit report has, with bringing a lot of major changes from the current audit, and it will be more specific, will be providing a lot of information. So yes, there are positives in this, but it requires a lot of action before we can implement those. And here there are some questions that if it is to be applicable for accounts ending after 15 December 2016, that means that for the calendar year ending 16, it would be applicable if SECP is required. Now, if that is the case, then I think, in my opinion, we are already late, because if audit report is to give GANs, the audit methods, and other things, then we should be engaging with the auditors, much before that. It's not at the year end or that requires that. So really, we need to get these sessions with the regulators, and not just regulators. I think one factor we have not really discussed, even though in the presentation, just at the last slide, there was mention of investors. But we want to ask the Institute what engagement process you are doing with the investors, because they are also key stakeholders. And particularly when this, the requirement, one of the major key drivers were the investors to have better information in the director's report. And if they are not properly educated, then they can misconstrue the camps mentioned in the audit report as some kind of weaknesses in the control systems of the company, and it can have adverse impact on the share prices of the company. So I think while we see this as positive improvement, major improvement, I would say, but at the same time, a lot needs to be done, and I think the Institute's role and it's very important that they engage and do a lot of these sessions, and also the external auditors, they should be engaging with the management of identifying what would be the timelines when they would be discussing this with the management, with the board audit committees and all, so as to agree on the terms. Thank you.
Kamran Sahab, I think very good and elaborative comments. For your benefit and for the benefit of others as well, let me highlight that this standard was introduced in January 2015, so almost more than a year. And from the Institute standpoint, even before this standard was made applicable, like final standard was issued in January 2015, at the exposure draft stage, this is one standard that from the Institute standpoint, we circulated for members' attention and for comments at the exposure draft stage. This is not the norm that for all the exposure draft we circulate to the members. So the awareness started even before the standard came. Then when the standard was final issued, we have a communication tool called Audit Bulletin that we issued every quarter. So in the January 2015, we immediately, this was the first point that was communicated to all. So the communication started from there, and from 2015 onward, there has been, in a various form, communication has been going on. For wider awareness, we have conducted a session in Karachi, then in Lahore, and in Islamabad. That was also very well attended in all the three places. The format that we had for these three awareness sessions was